We just spent 2 weeks exploring Central Europe. We put a bit of a twist on the classic Budapest, Vienna, Prague route, and I think we nailed it. Medieval towns and castles, beer spas, thermal baths, wine valleys, and dumplings and goulash on repeat. So if you're looking for a Central Europe itinerary with both iconic highlights and some off-the-beaten-path charm, here's what we did. We start in Budapest. It's often called the Pearl of the Danube or the Paris of the East, and you'll easily see why. We spent 3 nights here, which gave us just over 2 full days to explore. Here's what we loved. The Hungarian Parliament building. This is an absolute masterpiece, and it's easily one of the most iconic buildings in the country, if not Europe. I was obsessed. It's truly one of the most beautiful and interesting buildings I've ever seen. It sits right on the edge of the Danube, and it's got this grand neo-Gothic facade, and it's just beautiful, and it's just as striking from up close as it is from across the river. We couldn't get enough of it, and we hit it from all angles. If you want a perfect photo spot though, head to this metro station and walk out to see those incredible views. We also walked across the famous chain bridge and took the funicular up to Fisherman's Bastion. This spot feels like it belongs in a fairy tale or a Disney movie. The stone turrets, the sweeping staircases, and panoramic views over the whole city. And of course, the Parliament building glowing in the distance. This is what's called the Buda Castle District. There is so much layered history here, over 1,000 years of it, from the Middle Ages to World War II. I do wish we would have had more time to do a walking tour to do a deeper dive. I'll leave a link to the one I would book next time. We did get a local recommendation for a cozy spot serving goulash, and it's only open for lunch, and oh my gosh, it was incredible. That first evening, we wandered along the Danube at sunset, we took in the golden hour views, and we stopped for some local beers as the sun dipped behind the bridge. Later, we found the Budapest Eye. This is a Ferris wheel right in the middle of the city center. You can choose a standard or a champagne ticket. Obviously, we chose the champagne. Honestly, it was a lot of fun, there were great views, and this was good especially on our first night in this beautiful city. Now, one thing Budapest is most famous for is its thermal baths. Thanks to a ton of natural hot springs beneath the city, thermal bathing has been a tradition here since Roman times. There are several different ones, but we went to these baths, the most iconic and one of the biggest in Europe, actually.
Wow.
Cool. It's super popular with tourists, but it's for a good reason. And we went early, so it wasn't too busy. It's a massive complex, and it's equal parts relaxing and surreal. It was definitely a highlight and something I would not miss. We also explored a few local parks and neighborhoods. One of our favorites was Liszt Square, named after the famous Hungarian composer. He was known for his dramatic music and famously large hands. The square is full of open-air patios, leafy trees, and it was just a super chill vibe, which made it the perfect place to finally try palinka. Definitely burned a little, but the locals swear by it, so we did our best to blend in. Another must-try is langos. It's a deep-fried flatbread that's traditionally topped with sour cream, cheese, and garlic, but you can also go wild with other toppings too. It's kind of messy, super indulgent, and absolutely worth it. And it pairs exceptionally well with a cold beer.
Like selfie.
Oh, it's a video. Make it look intentional. Yay!
But if you only do one thing in Budapest, it should be the unlimited Prosecco cruise. It's the top-rated tour on Get Your Guide, so we had to book it, and it was 1,000% worth it.
I think you should get a...
I think you should get a...
We cruised the Danube River at night, sipping Prosecco, while we floated past the city's most stunning landmarks. And they weren't kidding about the unlimited part. My glass was never less than half full. We were gliding past the bridges, watching the Parliament building glow on the water. It was honestly one of those travel moments that just hit you. Maybe it was the bubbles, but I'm not kidding. I almost cried about how magical and beautiful it was in person. And to end our time in Budapest, we had to check out a ruin bar, which is another must-do. It's a uniquely Budapest experience. These are quirky bars, they're built into abandoned buildings, and they're filled with mismatched furniture and funky art and secret rooms, and they've all got different levels of bars. The most famous one is this one, and even if you're not big on nightlife, it's worth visiting just to see it. We went at night and then early afternoon to really absorb it all. Pretty cool spot, I have to say. In Budapest, we stayed at a hotel called Kalas House. We thought it was perfect. It's right across the street from the Opera House, which meant we were in a central, walkable location, but still tucked away into a more refined and casually elegant part of town. And the metro was just steps away from the front door, so getting around was super easy. Our room was cozy, but very clean and had everything we needed, even a small private terrace. And there was an elevator and air conditioning, two things not easy to find in European hotels. Each morning, breakfast was served in this gorgeous cafe, and it was a proper spread. Great coffee, fresh pastries, a selection of cheeses, the whole works. One morning, though, we had to skip the hotel breakfast, and we wandered around the corner to a spot called 26. It completely lived up to the hype. They call it the urban jungle, and you'll see why the second you walk in. There's lush greenery everywhere, a super buzzy, fun vibe, and fantastic coffee. And the food was kind of like Mediterranean. It was very good. And I can't forget to quickly mention some other must-try foods. Our hotel staff recommended some fabulous places to try famous Hungarian goulash and chicken paprikash. Definitely look for those dishes when you're in the city. By the way, if you want to follow this itinerary, I made a blog post which has more detailed information, including all the hotel details, a list of restaurants, and all the names of the places we went and all the tours we did. By the way, we did carry-on only for this trip. This was our setup and it worked out perfect. Highly recommend doing carry-on only. So at this point, we packed up our bags, we boarded the train, and cruised past fields of bright red poppies until we made it to Vienna, Austria, where the first order of business was buying apple strudel before we even left the train station. It had to be done. But here's the twist. We didn't stay in Vienna. Instead, we rented a car and drove straight to wine country, the Wachau Valley, about an hour west of the city. This region is one of Austria's most scenic gems. It's a stretch of the Danube River lined with storybook towns, vine-covered hills, and castle ruins. This region is famous for its white wines and its apricot orchards. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and while it's popular with river cruises and day trippers from Vienna, we decided to slow things down and spend 2 nights in the village of Dürnstein. Dürnstein looks like it was plucked straight from a medieval fairy tale. There's tiny cobblestone alleys, Baroque towers, and the ruins of a castle that once held English King Richard the Lionheart captive. We stayed at the Hotel Richard Lionheart. It's a historic property, it's tucked behind ancient monastery walls, and it's got this interior that kind of feels like you're staying in a castle. We booked a room with a little balcony, and it was so lovely. The convent garden was its own kind of magic. There was roses blooming everywhere, birds chirping, and the shady linden trees that practically beg you to sit underneath with a book and a glass of wine. There's also a nice pool nestled in here. It was colder than a bathtub, but warmer than the Danube, and exactly perfect for a hot summer day. Honestly, I would have happily stayed at this hotel for a week, just rotating between morning coffees in the garden, afternoon swims, sunset wine, and doing absolutely nothing in between. It also had one of the best hotel breakfasts we've ever had. There was fresh fruit and pastries and breads and spreads, cheeses and meats, but also hot food. There was mimosas, cappuccinos, the whole works. It was just perfect. I would absolutely stay here again. One thing to note, there's no air conditioning, but our first day there, it was over 30 degrees Celsius, and honestly, we didn't miss it. The thick stone walls and the breeze off the river kept our room cool and comfortable at night. While we were there, we hiked up to the castle ruins where King Richard was imprisoned in 1192. It's a short but steep trail, and the views from the top are worth every step. Just sweeping views over what might be one of the most picturesque valleys in all of Europe. We really, really enjoyed this.
We've stormed the keep.
And then on the way back down, we stumbled across a little honor system wine stop. It's where local producers leave chilled bottles of wine in a fridge on the street, and you just drop a few euros, you grab a glass from the shelf, and then you can enjoy it right there on a bench overlooking the vines. I love this so much.
Prost.
Prost. And because this is apricot country, we also found a tiny window shop selling apricot brandy. It was served straight through the window like some kind of fruity medieval drive-thru. We also took a short Danube cruise to enjoy the views. This whole valley is absolutely beautiful. It almost feels fake. It's so perfectly pretty. I can't tell you how beautiful it was and how much we loved it here.
Let me get a hit in the mustard.
Oh, it looks like an egg. I love this. One of the highlights, though, was our sunset dinner on the terrace of our hotel's restaurant. We had stunning views overlooking the river, we had a fresh bottle of local wine, we dined on breads and crispy schnitzel, I had beef goulash with dumplings, and of course, strudel and apricot delights for dessert. Whole place, 11 out of 10. Amazing.
Oh my god.
Is it incredible? Also, a big tip I want to share is that we used an eSIM on this trip. We used Cesky and it worked perfectly. And Cesky is kindly sponsoring today's video. When you use an eSIM, it means you have internet as soon as you land at your destination, and you don't have to worry about relying on finding public Wi-Fi or pay expensive roaming charges while you're abroad. We could still text and call through WhatsApp, and we always had internet on the go, like when we were on the train and driving through the countryside, using it to follow our maps and listening to Spotify in the car. It's so easy to set up, it takes less than 2 minutes. It works in over 190 countries, or you can purchase a regional plan, which is what we did for Europe. Cesky's plans are usually cheaper than other eSIM options, and if you use code AliSmalls, you'll get 15% off. And when you've used 80% of your data, the app lets you know so you can top up in just a few clicks. I've used a few eSIMs, and honestly, Cesky has been the easiest to set up and the easiest to use on the go. To get the Cesky eSIM, just head to cesky.com/AliSmalls like you see on the screen, or scan the QR code. You can buy the plan you need on the website, download the app, follow the instructions, and you're good to go. If you have any questions about how it works, just let me know down below in the comments. The next day, we continued our journey and crossed into the Czech Republic. Before Prague, we're spending a little bit of time in the Bohemia region, known for its medieval towns, castles, beer culture, and rich history. Our first stop was the fairy tale town of Cesky Krumlov, a place so beautiful it barely feels real. There's kind of a theme developing here. Most people come here on a quick day trip from Prague, but we decided to stay overnight so we could really soak it in, and we're so glad we did this. The town dates back to the 13th century, and walking through it feels like you've time traveled. The narrow cobblestone streets, the terracotta rooftops, and an opulent castle palace with a rainbow-painted tower. The whole town is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's one of the best preserved medieval towns in Europe. Spending the night gave us the chance to experience the place after the crowds cleared out. When the streets quieted down, the golden light hits the river just right, and it feels like you have the whole place to yourself. It was awesome. We stayed in a 500-year-old guest house, which definitely delivered on the old world charm and the period correct ceiling height. Spoiler here, people in the 1500s were not 6'9".
Ta-da!
But the upstairs ceilings were perfectly fine. There are only 3 rooms in this whole place, and the innkeeper, she was the sweetest. She's lived here for decades and made us feel right at home. Our room was spotless and cozy, and our little balcony looked directly out over the river with one of the best views in town. And in town, the historical center is a mix of Gothic, Renaissance, and Baroque architecture, once home to noble families from different eras. We loved wandering through the winding lanes, taking in the riverside views, and climbing the castle for 360-degree views of the rooftops, the river, and the rolling hills beyond. Honestly, we must have said, "This doesn't even look real," at least a dozen times to each other. And let me be the first to introduce you to Czech food, because there's a lot of it coming up, and it's hearty and delicious. On this night, we went straight for the traditional stuff: dumplings stuffed with smoked meat and white cabbage, and duck with red cabbage and even more dumplings. You'll notice a theme, and we are not mad about it. Our guest house was just across the bridge, but we couldn't resist a nightcap in a local dive bar located in a converted medieval cellar. From Cesky Krumlov, we made our way deeper into the Czech Republic to spend a few days in Kutna Hora, a smaller city that absolutely flies under the radar, but totally delivers on atmosphere and history. Kutna Hora was once one of the richest towns in Europe thanks to its silver mines, and you can still feel that medieval wealth in its Gothic architecture and quiet grandeur. The main draw here is St. Barbara's, a Gothic cathedral from the Middle Ages. Construction began in 1388, but actually took 600 years to complete. It's stunning from all angles, including inside, and it looks like it belongs in a much bigger city. It's dramatic, it's intricate, and it sits right at the edge of a cliffside path that gives you some incredible views of the surrounding countryside. And when you need a breather from all that medieval intensity, there's a cathedral wine garden nestled in the vines, serving up regional wines with a side of peace and quiet. Another famous site here is the Sedlec Ossuary, also known as the Bone Church. It's a small chapel decorated with bones of over 40,000 people, and the bones are all arranged into chandeliers, pyramids, and a coat of arms. You can't take photos inside, so you'll have to Google it. Kutna Hora is also a great hub if you want to visit the Cesky Castle, which was built in 1380. The ruins sit up high on 2 jagged volcanic spires that rise straight out of the Czech countryside, with the remains of 2 towers perched on top. From a distance, it almost looks like something out of Lord of the Rings. Totally dramatic and kind of surreal. And if you're a gamer, this might look familiar. Leave a comment if you know what this is. Once you climb up to the top, the views of Bohemia are incredible. It's worth it for the views alone. We loved staying in Kutna Hora for a few nights. It was very relaxed and calm. It wasn't busy or full of tourists, and it felt like a nice reprieve from so many popular places in Europe struggling with over-tourism right now. And we stayed in a beautifully renovated apartment hotel. It was just steps from St. Barbara's, like literally a 10-second walk. It had a full kitchen and living area, a huge bathroom, air conditioning, and everything was in walking distance, which was dangerous really, because it meant we could justify wandering from one plate of dumplings to the next in the name of research. And research we did. Camembert and lingonberries for breakfast, potato garlic soup, pork and dumplings and dill sauce, beef goulash with cranberry gingerbread dumplings, beer in medieval taverns. Foam on beer is not only a good thing, it's delicious, and you can actually order your foam in 3 ways. Of course, we tried all 3, and all 3 were fabulous. On our way out of Kutna Hora, we stopped in the village of Malashov, about 10 minutes away. Here, there's a fully restored 14th century fortress, complete with the original brewery on site. There's swords and armor to try out. Dead. And even real crossbows. That's cool.
Cool.
Bullseye.
Malashov defended.
If you like beer and medieval stuff and you're in the area, definitely make this a stop. After our time in the countryside, stopping at every castle along the way, we made our way to Prague, returned the rental car, and officially switched back into city mode for a few more days of exploring. First, we checked into our hotel. This was a great little spot in the perfect location. We had a nice big room with air conditioning, great coffee, and a great shower. There's no elevator here, but our staff carried our bags for us, and we were used to steps by this point in the trip. And the hotel breakfast spread that's included is incredible. And I knew I booked this place for the location, but I didn't realize how perfect it was. If you walk through the attached restaurant, you pop out directly onto the pedestrian street that leads you straight to the Charles Bridge. Oh, this is like outside. And as luck would have it, we arrived at sunset. So naturally, we grabbed a bottle of bubbly from the hotel fridge, we admired the view, and then made our way to the dock for what ended up being one of the highlights of our entire trip, a private wine cruise. Yeah, we saw you cruise by last night, and I was like, I want to do that. This was absolutely hands down the best way to enjoy the views in Prague. We cruised along the city's most iconic sites while enjoying a tasting of authentic Bohemian and Moravian wines, while our guide shared stories about the history and culture of the city. It was just the perfect way to ease into the magic of Prague. But I'll be honest, what I was most looking forward to was the beer spa. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You walk down into a cool cellar that's been there for centuries.
Whoa!
All right, this is yours.
Wow.
And like usually, tap for hot water, cold water.
Okay.
Of course, same working for beer. Like this in the middle. And you have unlimited consumption of the beer. If something will be wrong or anything, you can make it for me.
Okay.
And right here is hops with sugar, protein, and vitamin B. You can smell it as well.
Okay.
And the resin is pretty good for your skin and hairs.
Okay.
Put it inside.
Wow.
Whoa.
It's basically a beer hot tub. And then you get to pour your own draft beer to enjoy, which is unlimited for the time that you're there. This is something they've been doing since the Middle Ages, so I'm thinking they were onto something. Spa day and happy hour all in one. I can't think of anything more perfect. We tried 2 different ones, and they are both phenomenal. Of course, Prague is stunning. There's Gothic towers, crooked lanes, dramatic bridges, and spires as far as the eye can see. You don't even need a plan, just wandering through Old Town is an experience in itself. One spot you shouldn't skip is the Old Town Tower. It's cheaper if you walk up, which we did, and honestly, it's not that bad of a hike. The views from the top are completely worth it. We also spent a little time exploring Prague Castle and its surrounding gardens. It's a massive complex, and you can spend as much or as little time there as you want. One hidden gem we really loved was the Vertba Gardens, a peaceful little Italian-style terraced Baroque garden. It's quietly tucked away, very easy to miss. It was built in the early 1700s, and we loved it. It was quiet and calm, and we thought the small entry fee was worth it. Between all the sightseeing, we made sure to pause for plenty of cappuccinos in the main square, which also happens to be one of the world's greatest people-watching spots. One evening, we got tickets to an organ concert right by our hotel. At this church, the organ was built in 1702, and many famous musicians have played on this very organ, including Mozart and Dvorak. It felt kind of surreal to sit in the pews and hear that same instrument echoing throughout the centuries. And knowing us, you know we had to visit the Prague Beer Museum. Totally worth an hour or two, especially if you love beer, even half as much as we do. The Czech Republic drinks more beer per capita than any other country in the world, by a lot. And after this trip, we definitely did our part to help keep that title alive.
You just need a dirndl and we'll be all set.
Beer here isn't just a drink, it's a lifestyle, and it pairs beautifully with all the rich, comforting Czech food, like potato soups, beef goulash, duck with cabbage, and dumplings in every form imaginable. Oh, and we even found beer ice cream. And that was the end of our trip. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to follow this itinerary or get all the details of all the places we went and restaurants that we enjoyed, check out the blog post for more info. I also turned it into an 18-page PDF travel guide that you can download for easy planning. The link is in the description box, or you can scan the QR code. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.